Solitude. _7_. I wish I had asked for some sort of guidance, because as I stood there, I totally had nothing to say. I could feel my pits getting wet, but I refused to show them that they could toy with me. I had no idea how to run this firm and I would obviously need a lot of help, but they needed to know who was in charge. I am sure I don't need to introduce myself because most of you know my face and I am certain you have already heard the contents of Mrs. Chanda's will. But for the sake of those who don't know me, I will spare some time for pleasantries. I paused, just to study their faces. This is something that Shailesh had taught me before she died. If you have to present yourself well in the presence of people, you had to make sure that you had their full attention. I could tell from where I stood that they were wondering what in God's name I was doing standing in the presence of the mighty Chanda. I knew people hated her for her bossy nature, but she was so good at her job it was intimidating. My name's Mafandanella and I am going to be head of this firm according to the late Mrs. Chanda's wishes. And I look forward to working with all of you, I said. I could see the eager faces. They wanted to hear more. Maybe they expected me to put up a show or a sort of fight, but I wasn't going to do that. In the end, I decided I was going to study them as much as possible before I decided who could be on my team. I dismissed the meeting after allowing them to introduce themselves. I had studied their files the previous night. It wasn't hard, it was like watching YouTube videos for new tutorials, and though not as fun, I grasped as much information as I could. I walked into my new office with a heavy heart. I don't know why the hell Shailesh left this to me or what point she was trying to prove, but it did feel lonely. She was really trying to make a clown out of you, not so? I heard a familiar voice. It was Chanda. I mean, what does a silly makeup artist know about law? You have never spent a day in law school, so why the hell would she make you CEO? She questioned with more venom than intended. I have no idea, Chanda. She was your mother and I think between us you should know better. I respond, hands akimbo. I swear I will get to the bottom of this and it will get ugly. Trust me, you won't like it. She threatens, walking away. I know those are not empty threats. Chanda is capable of so many things and I am scared, but I can't show her that. A few minutes later, my secretary walks in. I notice she is new. So different from the one that Shailesh had before she died. Good morning, ma'am, she greets. Good morning, I respond, looking her in the eye. I notice she fidgets a little and tries not to stare into my eyes. How old are you? I ask, taking in her small form. 21, ma'am. I see. And how long have you been working? This is my first job, ma'am. I just completed uni and when I saw the advert about a secretary, I thought I'd give it a try. She responded, her face down. Who interviewed you? No one, ma'am. Excuse me, I hacks. No one, they just axed when I completed school and that was it. They. Ms. Chanda, ma'am. I could have sworn Chanda and Shibesa were trying to make me fail, because what happened to Chailesh's secretary? How are we supposed to work together if none of us knew anything about how to run this place? Please get me someone, anyone who is familiar with this place, I say, developing a headache. She runs out of my office, almost tripping on herself, but that is not the least of my worries. Yes, I know Chailesh's schedules and most of her clients, but how am I supposed to face them if I have never done this before? Chailesh, what have you gotten me into? I say, silently leaning onto my table for support. My phone buzzes. It is my secretary telling me that my 9 a.m. is ready. A tall, dark man walked into my office. I had not even fully settled in when he just stood there with his intimidating nature. I suppose you are the new CEO of the firm, he said. And you are, I responded, trying to look him in the eye, but there was something about his stare that felt cold and distant, and so I broke the gaze. That is not important. I have a proposal for you, he said, handing me some papers which he removed from his suitcase. I didn't notice he had one until then. I took them from him, trying to show professionalism, but I was failing remarkably. I heard myself gasp after reading the last sentence. This is absurd, I said, shoving it in his face. Young lady, you have no idea what you have gotten yourself into, and before it gets worse, I am just trying to do you a favor. He said. Doing me a favor? I asked, shock still written on my face. You have no idea how to run this firm, you will bring it to its crumbles. The only reason Shailesh survived was because she stood the test of time, other than that she was just an uptight bitch who deserved what she got. How dare you, I said, lifting my hand, but he held it halfway. Exactly why you can never be half the woman that she was. She used her brains, you are using your emotions. He said, yanking off my hand. If you know what is good for you, sign these papers and we can all go on with our lives. He said, walking away. He stood by the door and looked at me. A girl like you can never survive the big world. Your place is in the orphanage, playing with dolls and makeup brushes. He said with a devilish smile. I felt the hot tears threaten to fall, but I blinked them back, refusing to cry. Winnie. Hibiscus.